Welcome back and welcome to my March wrap up. I decided a bit like last year that I was going to cut March short early so I could film this wrap up in its entirety and start April. So April's going to be like a week longer in terms of my reading and March is going to be a week shorter. However, I've still had a really good reading month for March. So I'm going to show you some of the books that I have read now, and a few of these I actually have videos talking about either already up or coming up, so I will mention those. So the first one I have is Raise Me in a Lobster Suit, Absurd Internet Ads and the Real Conversations That Followed. This one was released on the 26th of March and I have a video talking all about it and why I loved it, so I will link that up here. Then I did a couple of buddy reads this month, which was absolutely great for getting to things and getting the stuff I wanted to read. So I read Four Dead Queens by Astrid Scholte. I actually ended up doing this on audio because I received a review copy of the audio from Penguin Random House. So I have this physical proof that I got at BookCon last year, which seems like an awful long time ago, but I ended up doing it on audio. I thought the audio was really good, and I buddy read this with Bethany. We read it over 4 days. We did 100 pages a day. Obviously it's fantasy, which isn't my jam, but for a fantasy book, the world building was so good that I totally bought it. I believed it. I understood where I was. It was great reading it with Bethany because we could talk about our theories of who was killing these queens and who was who and who was connected to who. The bit that kind of fell short for me was I felt like it kind of wrapped things up and revealed everything a little bit too quickly. It did that around about the 300 page mark, so we still had 100 pages left to go, and then kind of wrapped everything up neatly in terms of killings and romances and just general conclusions. I think that it either could have been a shorter book and then wrapped up where it did, or it could have carried on with a bit of the mystery a little bit longer. But I think if you like fantasy, then you'll definitely like this one, and it was entertaining enough to keep me occupied and kind of gasping at things up until the very end, so that's a good thing. And then the other buddy read that we did was The Princess and the Fangirl by Ashley Poston. This comes out on the 2nd of April. I think this video will be up before the 2nd of April, or no, this video will be up on the 2nd of April. So this comes out today if you are viewing this on the upload day. I will leave a link below because there is a pre-order giveaway with this. So if you pre-order the book right up until the 8th of April, so you've got after the book's released to pre-order this, I'll leave the link below because you can get some awesome swag if you pre-order this. I highly recommend. This links into another book that I read this month. I read Geekerella, which is the first book in this kind of companion, what's going to, I believe, be a trilogy. I know there is definitely a third book in this world coming. I loved Geekerella. It's a retelling of Cinderella. I love this one even more. I think if you had to make me pick out of the two, I would pick this one. I love the cover. I am getting a finished copy of this one as well because of that awesome pre-order campaign. And this one was amazing. I loved the romance in it and I loved the fandoms in both of them. This is obviously a retelling of The Prince and the Pauper, The Princess and the Fangirl. And if you liked Geekerella, definitely you will love this one. If you haven't read Geekerella, I would recommend reading that first. I'll leave a link to that one below as well, because there are some references to that book in this one and you don't want to be spoiled. And then I finally got around to reading The Art of Losing by Lizzy Mason. I got this one at BookCon last year as well, so it's about time. This one took me a while to get through. I think the pacing was just a little bit off for me. It's got some really good messages about addiction in teens and what happens if you relapse and how different people treat rehab differently. That was really good. The romance in it was slightly lacking, and I think that's why it took me a little bit longer to read. So if it's just a kind of strong contemporary romance YA novel you're after, I wouldn't say that this was it. But if you're looking for something that deals well with addiction, and specifically addiction in teens, then this is definitely it. So it's good for specifics but not for general. But you know, I read it. Then I read a couple of poetry books. I read The Mermaid's Voice Returns in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is the special edition that has the gorgeous mermaid's tail with the shimmery green on the front, and you can see I did flag a few poems that I enjoyed. I have reviewed this one on my blog. My blog is always linked below, and I did post my review on Instagram as well, which is also linked below. And then on the theme of poetry, I also read Dragonhearts, which is a collaboration of poems by Nikita, Gill, Amanda Lovelace and Trista. I saw all of these wonderful poets at BookCon last year, and I have read Nikita Gill's poetry and Amanda Lovelace's poetry. I haven't read any standalones by Trista, but I have read her poems in here, and I have read her poems in another anthology. And again, you can see I have flagged a few poems that I enjoyed. There's the back of that one to show you. I don't think I hauled this one yet because I only just got it. Did I haul this one? I can't remember. If I did, I'll leave my book haul linked up here. If I didn't, I won't. Then a couple more I did on audio. These two were firmly on the TBR, and I do have physical copies of them, but I ended up doing them on audio for two different reasons. So I finished reading On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I have made a video talking about this one, but I'm not sure if it'll be up by the time that this video goes up. If it is, I will link it. If not, I won't. You can look forward to that one coming up, so make sure you're subscribed so that that video lands right in your subscription feed. So I'm not going to talk in depth on this one. I'm just going to say I did the audio. The audio was fantastic. The reason I did it was I'd had a hold on it and it came through to my library, and I was like, I could do this one as I'm driving around, so I'm gonna. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic, and the raps that are in here are amazing. Angie Thomas, you should be a rapper. They are awesome. But yeah, I'll speak on more detail in the video that you'll see reviewing this one. And then another one that I have a physical copy of that I got much quicker than I anticipated, but I also had an audio review copy of this one, again from Penguin Random House. So I actually did it on audio, and again, highly recommend the audio. Is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is sex, drugs and rock and roll in the 70s. I will read you the little teaser bit because I think this sums it up best. So everyone knows Daisy Jones and the Six. The band's album Aurora came to define the rock and roll era of the late 70s, and an entire generation of girls wanted to grow up to be Daisy. But no one knows the reason behind the group's split on the night of their final concert in Chicago Stadium on July the 12th, 1979 until now. So the audio of this one has a full cast. It has a different actor voicing different people, and they are actors that you will have heard of. So definitely recommend the audio of this one. It reads a bit like a kind of VH1 behind the music type thing, because it's written as if it's written by a journalist, and you're not 100% sure who this journalist is, but all does become clear as the book goes on. And I just really enjoyed it. It has been optioned for I think a 6-part TV show, and the whole time reading it I did think this would make an amazing movie. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. I really enjoyed it. And then I don't think I mentioned this in my February wrap up, because I believe I started reading it on the 1st of March, so I think we're good here. And that is The Mum Who Got Her Life Back by Fiona Gibson. I already have a review for this one on the blog. A lot of the ones I've mentioned actually I have already reviewed on the blog, which, as I said, is always linked below. This one is a romantic comedy about Nadia, whose kids have gone away to university. the freedom that she has, her newfound freedom, and what that means for her, but then how that changes when the kids come back for the summer. It was very funny. I did laugh out loud at parts of it, and I really felt for Nadia in other parts of it as well. I really enjoyed it, definitely recommend. And then a couple more that I did on either Kindle or audio that I don't have physical copies of to show you. I read The Summer of Chasing Dreams by Holly Martin. I was on the blog tour for this one yesterday, if you're watching this video as it goes up. But yes, really enjoyed it. I loved the travel aspect of it. Any novel where you can have some escapism and travel the world with a character is always fun. And one of the things that Holly Martin does really well in her novels that other writers don't always do is she shows her characters having safe sex. When a sex scene comes up, there's always a condom involved, which I really like. So if you like that kind of thing, you will like Holly Martin. Then I read Field Notes on Love by Jennifer E. Smith, which is another novel that features travel. It features two people together on a cross-country train journey. So they're traveling from the northeast down to California, and we see them getting off at stops in between. We see them on the train, and again, the journey aspect of this one was definitely my favourite part of it. There's a lot of diversity in the novel in terms of different groups who are often underrepresented. So if you're looking for something with travel that is also diverse, Field Notes on Love, Jennifer E. Smith. It's a young adult romance, and I really enjoyed it. Then a little bit of non-fiction on audio. I listened to Too Much Is Not Enough, which is the memoir from Andrew Rannells. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. I know Andrew Rannells from the Book of Mormon soundtrack, which I listen to an awful lot on my phone, and from being in Girls, and then he pops up in other things. I particularly loved his guest starring role in Will and Grace. If you haven't watched that episode, definitely recommend that one. This book, he's so funny. He's very honest in his stories, but the stories that he tells them in such a deadpan way. I was chortling along to myself in the car. Definitely recommend this, even if you only have a passing interest in his life story. It's entertaining and funny as a book in its own right. Then I also listened to Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson, which is another memoir, but this is a memoir in verse. It is poetic, it is honest, it is brutally honest. There are definite care warnings in this book for sexual abuse and rape and domestic abuse to a certain extent as well. So just make sure you heed those if you're thinking of picking this one up. I would definitely recommend doing it on audio because she reads it herself, just like Andrew Rannells reads the previous one, and both of those were given to me for review by Penguin Random House Audio. They've had some excellent books on their list this month. And then finally, the last audiobook that I finished in the month of March was the Magnificent Mrs. Mayhew. I keep calling it The Marvellous because of The Marvellous Mrs. Maisel. The Magnificent Mrs. Mayhew by Millie Johnson, which is just girl power at its best. Women being awesome and not needing anyone else to do so. I think I may be making a full video talking about this one, so if I do, again, make sure you watch out for that in your subscription feed. So yeah, there we have it. Quite a few books read considering the fact that I cut March short. I stuck to my TBR. There's only a couple of things that I read there that were outside of my TBR, which I am very pleased about. And in terms of my sort of ambition of my TBR, I've read everything except the April releases I need to read. And the only reason I haven't included those in my March wrap up is because I decided to cut March short. Effectively, my March reading ended on the 24th of March and my April reading began on the 25th of March. So that is why. I will have my April TBR coming up for you next, so make sure you are subscribed so that that lands in your subscription feed. Let me know in the comments what your favourite book that you read in March was. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you with my April TBR very soon. Bye!